Hello, welcome. This is the Steampunk Starraisin live show, episode 4. And I've got Daniel joining me in a little bit. Whenever he gets here, he'll be joining me. This is a little bit awkward here, but I've got over the course of the next hour, I've got these amazing topics coming up. Why did Darth Vader not protect his daughter in Star Wars Episode 4 in the Pope? Darth Vader in Episode 8, question mark. Homo Naledi, new hominid species found in South Africa. And we'll talk about Colonel Custer, you know, his last stand and all that. And Doctor Who, Magician's Apprentice review and theories, the future of Star Trek, the history of the Bible, which I know that will be a controversial one, and the new Cold War, USA versus Russia. That is the one politic thing for today that I will talk about on the note. Hold on here, people. Let me see. Trying to get my Daniel. Oh, there you go. Great. I just started the show, and the first topic of the day, I'm going to talk about why Darth Vader did not protect his daughter in Episode 4. This is quite a mystery to me because you can actually tell that George Lucas, time and time again, like he has liked doing in Star Wars mythology, he retcons things from time to time. I mean, the original incarnation of Star Wars, there was no indication that Princess Leia was the daughter of Darth Vader, or Luke Skywalker, the son of Darth Vader. And then he retconned that in Empire Strikes Back, and then he retconned a few more things in Return of the Jedi, and then in the prequels, things got retconned again. But yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that in Star Wars Episode 8 they explain this, because there's supposed to be Darth Vader is supposed to appear in Episode 7, but only as a flashback. And he's supposed to appear with the Sith prisoners, and he's supposed to be...
Yeah.
Which you never actually... In A New Hope, you see and you see Darth Vader asking Princess Leia, like, the first couple of... So from what I understand, this harkens back to that. And Princess Leia's... She is confirmed for a role in Episode 7, and the rumor is... Carrie Fisher's daughter looks like a young Carrie Fisher. She looks like a young Princess Leia, and it's just very weird to me. It's kind of one of the plot holes in the original trilogy of Star Wars. I mean, you can't blame it on the prequels, because this plot hole exists in the original trilogy. If Darth Vader was the chosen one, or Anakin Skywalker, aka Darth Vader, was the chosen one, and he was so strong in the Force, why did he not, especially when she was torturing her, why did he not detect that Princess Leia was his daughter? I mean, it's understandable Princess Leia would not know. She had no formal training in the Force, even though she's Force sensitive. That, you know, she wouldn't know that Darth Vader was his father because she doesn't know how to use the Force. But Darth Vader, being trained as both a Jedi and a Sith, should have been able to detect the fact that that Princess Leia, you know, was his daughter. What's your explanation for that?
Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe her Force power, she was Force sensitive, and she prevented Darth Vader from knowing that it was her.
That's possible, and I'm hoping maybe in Episode 7 they explain that theory or explain the reason for that, because that's one of the plot holes in the original trilogy that I found never, not fully resolved. I mean, Luke Skywalker, I guess, is kind of understandable because in the first movie, Darth Vader only encounters Luke Skywalker at a distance in Space Fighter scene. I mean, his Luke Skywalker was in his TIE fighter, so Darth Vader encounters Luke Skywalker in a TIE fighter, but at a distance. And you could tell, that Darth Vader. That is a plausible theory. Looks like we've got a third person joining us. Oh, maybe not. This app is being a little bit buggy. Maybe my internet's crapping out. It showed the third person joining us was me. I guess I had. Did I disappear offline and come back on?
A little bit.
What?
A little bit. A little bit.
Sorry about that. At a coffee shop downtown. Yeah, we got 0 viewers. The last episode episode 3 only got 32 views. For those of you who have not seen episode 3, I would encourage you to see it. We talk about a whole array of topics, including Utsi the Iceman, which is one of my favorite archaeological discoveries. Okay, now that we're done talking about Darth Vader and why he was not able to detect his daughter in episode 4, why he was torturing her, then I'm hoping that in episode 7, they'll give a little bit more tidbits, a little bit more backstory. He resolve that plot hole. But now moving on, Hayden Christensen is rumored to be in Star Wars Episode 8. SourceFed Nerd has repeated the story, and so has Dashstar. SourceFed Nerd and Dashstar usually get pretty credible information. But there is, the one thing we have to be critical about, there is no official announcement on the StarWars.com website. So technically, it is still a rumor that Hayden Christensen is going to return as Darth Vader in Episode 8. What's your opinion about that, Dan?
I think, yeah, he is coming back. I don't really, I believe it. Sorry.
Yeah, you could exit out of Skype. I'm going to exit out of Skype too, because that's a little bit distracting for the live cast. But go ahead. What were you going to say about Hayden Christensen, Darth Vader, Episode 8?
Well, I really think that, yeah, it's true. He will come back, and like I said, I always knew that he may come back in the future, and, yeah, I always knew he was coming back in the future. Episode 7, the original episode 789, Darth Vader and Luke got a clone of Darth Vader. In the original series, the original 789, a bunch of Dark Jedi, they cloned Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader because they were worshippers, I suppose, or fans of Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader, and they believed that they believe that they should rule the universe as father and son. They believe in that. That's why they created of Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader.
So you think that they are taking elements out of George Lucas's original draft for Episode 7?
Yeah, they already did. In the original Episode 9, there was this weapon called the Black Hole Devastator, and it could destroy entire star systems. And we have a weapon like that in Episode 7 that can destroy an entire star system. So I think they already got something from the old scripts.
No, I mean I think they did, and if it's done well, it could be good. The only thing I'm concerned about is Lawrence Kasdan, who's one of my favorite script writers, is not said to have penned the script for Episode 8. So that concerns me a little bit that they're moving beyond George Lucas, and now they're moving beyond the original scriptwriter from the original trilogy to new scriptwriters. So that could be dangerous. It could be, if they do it very cheesy, it could be bad. But yeah, I kind of wish that they had stuck with brand new Sith that they introduced in Episode 7, which Kylo Ren is that, but supposedly Kylo Ren dies in Episode 7. So you're going to have a brand new villain in Episode 8. I would rather they just stuck with a new Sith. But there's a lot of questions that I have about Episode 8. Is Jar Jar Binks going to be in it? We don't know his final fate. Is Darth Maul going to be in it? I have a theory that Darth Maul is in carbonite freeze, and the Emperor had plans to bring him out of carbonite freeze. You know, if Darth Vader died or if he died, and I have a feeling that that might be the reason why there's a rumor that Darth Maul might be in Episode 7. But a lot of people don't like that idea. They want a total disconnect from the original trilogy. But Darth Maul was a pretty cool character. But let's see.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
do you think Darth Maul and the clones, the clone Vader, is going to fight each other?
I don't see why they would. It depends on the context. I mean, Sith have fought each other before. I mean, Darth Sidious fought Darth Maul and beat him. Like, it only took Darth Sidious, or Palpatine, Emperor Palpatine. At the time, he was an emperor, so he was technically Darth Sidious. Darth Sidious, Chancellor Palpatine. But anyway, Palpatine detected Darth Maul and detected disturbance in the Force. He actually took out Darth Maul pretty quickly. Savala Press, he took out Savala Press within a few seconds. And Darth Maul put up a little bit better fight. He lasted about 30 seconds. But he didn't kill him, and it's kind of a mystery of the with the way that episode ended. So it depends. I mean, there's the rule of two. So if Darth Maul comes out of hiding or comes out of carbonite freeze and starts training a new apprentice, and then the Darth Vader clone is now a third Sith, then yeah, they could fight. But if there's only Darth Maul, there's no Sith apprentice, and then the Darth Vader clone gets created, then the Darth Vader clone could be the new apprentice.
Okay.
I mean, anything is really possible in that sense. I still like, I mean, I'm glad that they're apparently Captain Rex and Ahsoka's story arc is going to be resolved in Star Wars Rebels. But I mean, there's a few things that need to be resolved. Like what was Obi-Wan Kenobi doing for 30 years in between the prequels and in between, or actually, I think it's 20 years. What was Obi-Wan Kenobi doing for 20 years of Tatooine? He's just sitting around being a hermit the whole time?
Maybe training.
Maybe. And, what happened to Jar Jar and what happened to Darth Maul? I would like to know. And I, unlike a lot of Star Wars fans, I actually didn't mind Jar Jar. I thought he was really good comic relief. I wish George Lucas had given Jar Jar more of a chance and not listened to petty criticism about Jar Jar, because Jar Jar made a big return in the Clone Wars cartoon, and he appeared in a lot of episodes, and I thought he was a really interesting character and a very entertaining character. I mean, he has, in my opinion, my theory about Jar Jar, he is Force sensitive, and he doesn't even know it, and he has the Force power called what I call Force clumsy. Because, like, he could destroy a tank, a battle droid tank, and destroy, like, half an army just by tripping over stuff. I mean, he has his Force clumsy ability is so amazing. He's not even conscious of it. But I get it. Jar Jar has plot armor, but I really didn't think he was that bad of a character. What's your opinion about Jar Jar?
I thought he was an okay character. I wasn't crazy about him.
Well, I wasn't crazy about him, but I don't have disdain or hatred for him like some of these Star Wars fans. And I don't have disdain or hatred for the prequels. And it's changing anyway, because you have the old grumpy grandpa Star Wars fans who watched Star Wars when it first came out, and they're like, "Don't mess with my Star Wars." Lucas screwed it up with the prequels. And I'm like, the prequels are actually pretty good. You want to watch an example of a terrible sci-fi? Uh, you want to watch an example of a terrible sci-fi film? Just watch Star Trek Five or Star Trek Into Darkness. Those are terrible sci-fi films. And to me, the prequels had a much superior storyline. I really love the anti-war metaphor that George Lucas put into Star Wars. It's very subtle, but it's there. There's a strong anti-war metaphor. You have a clone army versus a droid army, and these droids are programmed not to think for themselves and just to obey orders without thinking. And the clones are genetically modified not to question orders. So it's kind of a metaphor for real life. With like the Vietnam War or the Iraq War, where people just, you have the dogma of politics, where they try to brainwash people into and convincing that they're doing the right thing and you should not question orders. And I say you're wrong. You should always question orders. You should always take everything with critical thinking and a scientific method. Okay, moving on. We've got an archaeological study or an archaeological discovery within the last month. I think I'm pronouncing this right. Homo naledi, a new species found in South Africa. It's actually quite mysterious. There's this remote cave in South Africa, and it's like one of those limestone caves that is created by underground water flow, and it's been there for millions of years. And apparently, this hominid, which is close enough to modern humans, they look similar to Homo erectus, but they're a little bit more primitive than Homo erectus, and then maybe a direct ancestor of Homo erectus. But apparently, this hominid purposely carried the remains of their dead and threw them into this cave. They don't know why. They don't know if this was done by just random happenstance, or did they have a burying ritual. Homo naledi, which I think in the African language, lete means star. So it's very, very fascinating. Are you familiar with that archaeological discovery, Daniel?
No, I didn't see that. I didn't hear about it.
Well, no, I go to websites like Science Daily, and that's where I get a lot of my information. The great thing about Science Daily is that they link to other sources, and there's actually a Wikipedia article for Homo naledi. Homo naledi. Sorry, some of these new terms, as I get newly acquainted to, I have a hard time pronouncing, but I will try my best. But yeah, Homo naledi is our naledi. Homo naledi, an extinct species of hominid, provisionally assigned to the genus Homo, discovered in 2013 and described in 2015. Fossil skeletons were found in South Africa's Gauteng province. I'm not familiar with that province, but and found in the Rising Star. Oh, that explains why it's called, Naledi, Rising Star Cave System, about 800 meters northwest of the Sulcrans, part of the Cradle of Humankind World Heritage Site. As of September 2015, fossils of at least 15 individuals, accounting to 1,550 specimens, have been excavated from the site. The species is described as having a body mass and stature similar to a small-bodied human populations, smaller a smaller volume to Australopithecus and a small shape of early Homo species. So it's similar to Australopithecus in brain size. So it had a very small brain, but it apparently walked upright. And this may be the earliest human ancestor. No. They're still studying this, and it's quite the mystery, for such a primitive human ancestor. You wouldn't think they would be intelligent enough to have a burial ritual, but it appears that they had a burial ritual because there's a map here of the cave, and it was like a very hard to get to cave. Even still today, it's very hard to get to, and they actually they were hiring people of small and short stature to go into this cave and retrieve fossil specimens. But very, very fascinating. There's only preliminary data about it. But you know me, I love archaeology and I love anthropology and I love science. This story incorporates all of that. And do you have anything else to say about that?
What?
Do you have any other words to say before I move on to Colonel Custer?
No, I don't really have any opinion on that.
Okay. You had said off camera that you wanted to talk about Colonel Custer. What aspects did you have a question about? Because I know I've been to Little Bighorn. I was actually at the site where Colonel Custer fell and had his last stand. I went there with my grandfather years ago. My grandfather was still alive. We went up there and we took a tour, and that's why they recalled the battle. And not all of Colonel Custer's regiment was destroyed, only the troops that he brought with him. And Major Reno, after Colonel Custer got killed, Major Reno was the second in command who took over the 7th Cavalry Regiment. And from what I understand, 7th Cavalry Regiment, they didn't lose. Actually, technically, they did lose their colors because the commanding officer had the colors with them. But the regiment, because it wasn't totally destroyed, still retained its identity and name. And from what I understand, 7th Cavalry Regiment still exists to this day in the U.S. Army. But did you have any questions about that? Is there any information that you want me to tell you about Colonel Custer?
Yeah, like the whole story of Colonel Custer is interesting. Like, why didn't he bring his entire regiment with him? I mean, that was the reason why he was obliterated by the Indians. Like he was losing men like crazy because the Indians out kind of boxed him in, and killing all of his people. He should have brought everybody.
Yeah, he made 2 mistakes. He actually had Gatling guns on mounted carriage. He had horse-drawn Gatling guns, and if he had just brought his Gatling guns with him, that could have held off an entire army of Sioux. But the Sioux were in retreat because they had lost a couple of skirmishes with the 7th Cavalry in previous weeks, and he was tracking them down and chasing them. And he had Colonel Custer had an Indian scout, and this is his real name. This is the beauty of Indian warriors back then. A lot of the warrior tribes, the Native American warrior tribes. I'm part Native American, and this has been confirmed by DNA analysis. But anyway, I am mostly white, but I do have some Native American in me. But they used to go through meditation at age 12 when they were turning to adulthood, because in the Native American culture, 12 you were an adult. And the first thing you saw is what you would name yourself. You named yourself. Before age 12, you were just known as a child. But anyway, there was a Native American scout who worked for the 7th Cavalry and worked for Colonel Custer directly. His name was Bloody Knife. That was his name, Bloody Knife. You look him up, he's got a whole Wikipedia page about him. It's very fascinating. And Bloody Knife was the one that gave him intel on the Sioux. Like, yeah, the Sioux are in retreat. They're over here and here and here. And Blood Knife apparently was one of the people who fought by Colonel Custer's side and died. You know, I mean, a lot of these Indian scouts were viewed as traitors by, you know, the other tribes, of course, because they were helping out the U.S. Army to track them. And he, you know, Colonel Custer had been a veteran of the Civil War. He had been an honorary. He had the honorary rank of the equivalent of a brigadier general. He was like a one-star general during the Civil War, and he had a lot of experience commanding cavalry. But after the Civil War ended, the United States downsized its army, and he lost his temporary rank of brigadier general and was reduced in rank to lieutenant colonel. And this was common. This wasn't a demotion because of you know, of bad performance or anything. It was just, you know, you only got ranked what you had responsibility for, and they often gave temporary ranks during the Civil War. But yeah, I guess he was. Some people say that he was trying to prove himself, that he wanted to get promoted and he wanted to become a general, like a, you know, have a permanent rank of general. And who knows what his motives were, but he was cocky and brash, and he took a gamble. He split up his regiment into 3 parts, and he attacked the center mass. And he had, I was mistaken when I told you off camera, I think he had the 7th Cavalry at the time, Battle Little Bighorn. It was an undersized regiment because it was an undersized regiment. Yeah, according to this, I got the Wikipedia article here for Battle Little Bighorn. The 7th Cavalry was fighting multiple tribes of Indians. They were fighting the Lakota tribe, the Dakota tribe, the Blackfoot Dakota tribe, Northern Cheyenne tribe, and the Apache tribe. But I think the Apache, don't quote me, I think some of those were different tribes of the Sioux. Because when you talk about Sioux, that was a large group of Native Americans that consisted of many tribes. But so there were 7,000 warriors that he was going up against. And according to this, the Native American tribes lost between 36 and 136 killed, 180 wounded. And the U.S. Army lost 268 killed, 55 wounded. So, from what I understand, he had an understrength regiment of 500 troops, and he lost half of those. And the regiments, even back then, were normally, okay, according to this has been updated. According to this, he had 700 men in his regiment. And he lost 1/3. He lost 1/3 of his regiment. But that's, even still, 700 men is a very understrength size for a military regiment. Typically, a military regiment will have 3,000 to 3,500 troops. So he's already understrength. Oh.
Wow. I don't know. 700 men to me sounds like a lot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, but for a military regiment, normally a regiment is like 1/3 of a division, and normally a division is like a small army, and so 700 is actually understrength. Just based on history, and U.S. military units are based on Roman formations. The Romans used to have cohorts. A cohort is the equivalent to a company. But in a legion, a Roman legion was equivalent to like a regiment. But anyway, whatever. But I mean, he had 700 troops. He lost 268. he divided his force into three groups because he wasn't quite sure where the Sioux were. And what he was trying to do, he was trying to do a pincer movement. He was trying to attack center mass, but also attack left and right flank to give them no place to retreat. But what he didn't realize, what his scout Bloody Knife did not realize, is that the Sioux had massed, and they had over 7,000 warriors in various tribes. And they basically, he went right into their trap, and he charged so far ahead of his supporting units. His regiment had Gatling guns, which one Gatling gun could have held off 7,000 Sioux warriors. But, you know, being that he was a brazen and cocky commander, he had won a lot of battles against the Sioux in the previous weeks. And so he was overconfident. And that just comes to show you that technology and training are not everything. Sometimes it's the decisions in the heat of battle in that moment that can lead to your demise. And so, from what I understand, he realized he was surrounded, and he crossed on horseback with he had like 268 people with him. He crossed on horseback with 268 soldiers across this river, and by the time he crossed the river, the Sioux were shooting at him. They were sniping him. They were sniping his soldiers one at a time. And by the time he crossed the river, he only had like 100 soldiers left. And then he realized he was in serious trouble. He's like, man, I've already lost half the men I brought with me, and we're already surrounded. So in desperation, they shot their horses to use as barricades. And this is based on the U.S. Army actually retrieved a lot of the dead after the battle. They went up there and retrieved the dead and tried to do an analysis of the battle and why they lost. Anyway, so, you know, they're using the horses as barricades. Now they no longer have the advantage of being cavalry. Now they're just dismounted infantry. And by the time he forms a defense on the ridge, I can't remember the name of the ridge, but it's not really the important thing as to why he lost. But by the time he forms a defense on the ridge, there's like a ridge line. He forms a defense. They're shooting horses so that they can have, entrench, increase their cover a little bit better. He's now down to like 40 men. He's only got 40 men left with him. And according to newspaper reports at the time, this is the time before television and the time even before radio. The way people communicated back then and communicated the news, you had reporters that would interview people and write a newspaper story. So there was newspaper articles and newspaper reports at the time. They had interviewed a lot of the Sioux warriors and a lot of the people who had fought at the battle, who survived. And they from what I understand, they purposely picked off Colonel Custer last. Colonel Custer. They picked him off last, and they waited till he was out of ammo, and then they one of the warriors, I can't remember what warrior it was, but basically marched up to him on horseback with his tomahawk and knocked him in the head, knocked him down, cut him down. But the one thing they didn't do is because they did not mutilate his body. They mutilated the body of all of his officers, like his lieutenants and his officers that were with him. They mutilated all their bodies, and all the other soldiers, their bodies were scalped and mutilated. But Colonel Custer, this is according to U.S. Army study, his body was not mutilated at all. And it's because they had respect for him as a commander, even though he was the enemy. In Sioux culture, you still respect the dead of your enemy, and you don't mutilate them. But they mutilated everybody else. So yeah, they cut everybody down, and sadly, are you still there, Daniel?
Yep, I'm still here.
And sadly, the Sioux would later lose because from what I understand, the Sioux went to Canada for a while, and then they came back to the United States, and then they surrendered because they were starving to death. Because the U.S. Army at the same time had a policy. The Sioux lived off of hunting buffalo, and buffalo at one time used to be very numerous in North America. Buffalo used to have free range from Canada to North America. But the U.S. Army knew that this was a food supply for Native American tribes, so they just went, they killed millions and millions of buffalo. And the buffalo were endangered for a while, and buffalo today are not nearly as numerous as they used to be, and they're confined to reservations and not allowed free range like it used to be. So it's not like it used to be. So a whole way of life that had been around for thousands of years, forever gone with the battle of Wounded Knee. But yeah, this is a good example of how the United States is not always the good guy. They weren't the good guy in this one. I mean, Colonel Custer had a reputation of, like, he would go through Native American villages and just decapitate children. You know, they'd go through with their sabers on horseback and just decapitate anybody who was in the way. And because they viewed this as a strategic way of terrorizing the Native American tribes into submission and a way of eliminating the next generation of warriors. So, in my opinion, he got what was coming to him. And the Native Americans won that battle, but they lost the war, if that makes sense. Did you have any other questions about the 7th Cavalry Battle, Little Bighorn? I have a semi-photographic.
Well, I just think this topic is very interesting. And so, yeah, you said that there were some Sioux warriors that were talking to reporters, and they were saying that they purposely killed them last on purpose?
Yeah. That. I mean, it's conjecture. I mean, it's based on kind of gossip, but I mean, it's direct sources. I mean, they could have maybe embellished their story a little bit, but I mean, based on the U.S. Army, who studied the battle site to try to figure out what happened, I mean, Colonel Custer and his senior officers were some of the last people to die on the ridge, and when I went to the tour of Battle of Little Bighorn years ago with my grandfather, the tour guide, he just took us around, and some of the soldiers are buried there at Little Bighorn. And they had the names on it. They have a memorial monument with all the soldiers that died in that battle, and they have placeholders. I actually stood on the ground where Colonel Custer fell. I like crossing history that way. I like to go to historical sites and touch and feel and re-envision history in my head, or I shouldn't say re-envision, or imagine what it was like, what it was actually like, by actually going to the real site. That's the best way to study history, is to actually go to the historical site itself. And I've done that. I've been to Little Bighorn in Montana, southeastern Montana. Not that far from Canada, but it's south of Alberta. Any other questions before moving on to the next topic? The next topic is going to be Doctor Who, which you'll probably like. Go ahead.
Yeah. Could you tell us what they told you when you went there?
Well, they pretty much told me what I told you, that he basically he charged ahead with 1/3 of his regiment. He only had 1/3 of his strength with him. He left behind his heavy artillery and his Gatling guns. I mean, they said that if he had just waited for his Gatling guns to catch up, it wouldn't have mattered if he was outnumbered, 10-1. The Gatling guns would have mowed down the Sioux warrior on horseback, no problem. But he didn't do that. He was cocky and headstrong. And he basically got surrounded. He was attacking a position. He thought the Sioux were fleeing, but the Sioux had decided to stop and fight. And he thought he was chasing them, and they ended up outflanking him. He was in the valley, and they had the high ground. So he was already at a disadvantage, and he was cocky and ignorant of the situation. And they immediately surrounded his unit, or his battalion. And because he split up his regiment into 3 groups, which is 3 battalions, which is a typical military thing to do. And he was trying to outflank the Sioux, and instead the Sioux outflanked him. And not all of the 7th Cavalry died. 2/3 of the regiment survived. It's just the battalion that Colonel Custer commanded got destroyed, including him, with no survivors. So the survivors of the battle that were interviewed were the warriors. And I love the names, like Commander, the Native American commanders, Sitting Bull, Crazy Horse, Chief Gale, Lame White Man, and Two Moon. These were the commanders on the Native American side. And on the U.S. side, United States side, was Colonel Custer, Marcus Reno, that's Colonel Custer's second in command, who actually survived, and Frederick Bettine, or Frederick Bentine, Miles Koff, and James Calhoun. I may not be pronouncing some of these names correctly, but Lame White Man. Interesting. Lame White Man is a Cheyenne battle chief who fought in the Battle of Little Bighorn, June 25th, 1876, and was killed there. Oh, interesting. What an interesting name. Lame White Man. That was a real name of an Indian warrior chief. What an interesting name. Lame White Man. Look that up if you don't believe me. Any other questions about Battle of Little Bighorn?
Did you say the rest of the regiment, well, the rest of Colonel Custer's regiment eventually chased down the Indians and killed them all? The ones that killed Custer?
I think they held a defensive formation at first because they just lost 1/3 of the regiment. Major Reno took over, and the Cheyenne decided that even though they had won the battle, they apparently had suffered heavy losses, but they did win the battle. But they decided that they needed to move on, and they retreated to Canada, I think, after the battle, and were in exile in Canada. But then they started to starve to death, and they crossed back to the United States, crossed the border back in the United States, and surrendered. And were subjugated on a reservation. And Sitting Bull would later get killed in 1880. When law enforcement was attempting to arrest him. He apparently resisted arrest, and he got killed. But later though. But yeah, this is a sad, tragic event because this was the beginning of the end. I mean, yeah, they won a battle, but they lost the war. The way of life that had lasted for thousands of years was over. A culture that had lasted for thousands of years was over. Native American tribes after this would be subjugated to, reservations, and they would be given bad land, which was like usually dry, arid land, not good for raising crops, and they'd be forced to learn English, and their culture, their way of life was destroyed. You had from the time of Andrew Jackson. With the Trail of Tears all the way up until the Battle of Wounded Knee in 1890. You had the Indian Wars of the Wild West, where it took 60 years for the U.S. Army to defeat the Native American tribes. It was a long war, and countless numbers of people died. Whole tribes were wiped out, became extinct, either by disease or just by a combination of battle and disease. And a lot of tribes were under Andrew Jackson. Under Andrew Jackson, with the Trail of Tears, a lot of Native Americans died because they were forced at gunpoint to go to a reservation in Oklahoma from the southeast. They were evacuated, but they weren't given food or provisions. So a lot of them died of exposure, dehydration, and thirst. So it's, I hate to say this.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
Okay, wait, hold on 1 second. I'll be back. Just 1 second. I'll be back.
Okay, I'm going to move on to the next topic, which is the Magician's Apprentice. Magician's Apprentice. I don't have cable television, but I saw it on Daily Motion on the internet. Season 9, Episode 1 of Doctor Who. I have a theory about that episode. There were some bizarre things in that episode. I actually liked it. It was very entertaining. Um, and there's a spoiler alert here. I haven't seen it. I don't want to spoil it for you. But it appears that Claire dies. That's it. There's other people here at the coffee shop. It appears that Claire dies at the end of the episode. But from all accounts, she doesn't die. She comes back in the next episode. It's actually the Missy, with her vortex manipulator, apparently must have saved Claire at the last minute, just like she saved herself. Missy returns, and the doctor at the beginning of the episode is missing. And Missy tries to get the doctor's attention by freezing the aircraft. And Claire is somehow able to locate the doctor and in space and time. So they go to like medieval, looks like what appears to be medieval England, where he's entertaining guests. He's got a tank and a guitar, and he's acting kind of crazy. Missy claims to have the last will and testament of the doctor, and that she's the doctor's buddy, and that she is the recipient of the will. And Claire seems surprised by this because she tries to touch it and gets electrocuted. And Missy talks about how the last will and testament of the doctor can't be opened until his death. So they locate the doctor, but he's acting differently. He's acting kind of funny. And the doctor seems to acknowledge that Missy is his friend. He doesn't seem to care that she's hanging out, even though she's like a psychopath and a cold-blooded killer. And Claire is actually startled by this. She is like, why are you the doctor's friend? That doesn't make any sense. And I theorize that is actually a parallel universe version of the Computer Capaldi Doctor, or Doctor Number 12, or whatever you want to call him. Because there's a rumored leak that Computer Capaldi, there's going to be an episode where there's multiple Computer Capaldis, multiple versions of the Doctor from many different universes, which could be fascinating. And this may be leading into that. This is a new story arc beginning of season 9. So I think that this is a different Doctor. I mean, it's still a Peter Capaldi Doctor, it's still Doctor Number 12, but I think it's a different Doctor. And it's a very, you have a time travel paradox where, the Doctor has confronted with, he sees a young child version of the guy who creates the Daleks. And he just realized he saved the guy who created the Daleks, but yet he can't bring it to himself to kill him because he hasn't done anything bad yet. He's just a child. So it kind of reminds me of the Twilight Zone episode where somebody travels back in time to kill Hitler as a child, and then they end up killing what they think is the Hitler child, but then the parents just adopt somebody else and call him Hitler as well. And then that becomes the real Hitler who actually does all the horrible things. So it just comes to show you sometimes when you meddle with time travel, sometimes you can make things worse, or you can end up creating the actual horror that you were trying to prevent. So this is a similar concept that they're trying to do with season 9, episode 1 of Doctor Who. And it has gotten off to a good start, and I am excited for more. I am running out of time, so I'm moving on to the next topic, the future of Star Trek. The future of Star Trek, hopefully, Daniel, are you there? I guess you're not there. The future of Star Trek, I'm not very optimistic about. J.J. Abrams is confirmed to be executive producer for Star Trek 4, which is in pre-production, according to his IMDb page. And things on IMDb do change from time to time as new information comes in. So this may not be 100% in the bag, but I feel like Star Trek and the future of Star Trek is going to be dismal as long as J.J. Abrams is at the helm. That's not to say that he can't do a good job doing Star Wars, because he doesn't have final editorial control in Star Wars, but he has final editorial control in Star Trek, and he's done a horrible job with the last two movies. I am not optimistic about Star Trek Beyond, and apparently there's a falling out between Paramount and CBS Studios, and there's an issue with the license of Star Trek on television, who owns it, and I don't know. And apparently J.J. Abrams doesn't want a new Star Trek TV series because he views it as a competition to diluting the Star Trek franchise. So I don't have really any optimism for the future of Star Trek, short of J.J. Abrams getting fired from that franchise, which they won't do. I've only got 6 minutes left in the show, so I'm going to move on to the next topic, the history of the Bible. This was a topic requested by Daniel. So I'm going to talk about it, even though he's kind of busy at the moment. The Bible, as you know, was created by a Roman emperor. Well, I don't know if all of you know, but you should know. The Bible was created by a Roman emperor, Emperor Constantine. He held the Council of Nicaea. He incorporated many different Christian sects, many different books, and he basically stated that he wanted to be a single state authority on Christian religion. The original Bible was written in ancient Greek, and then it was later translated into Latin, and then it was later translated into medieval German with the Gutenberg Bible. Then it was later translated into archaic Old English, or archaic modern English, with the King James Version. The King James Version of the Bible, contrary to popular belief, is not written in Old English. It's archaic Old English, because archaic modern English, because Old English is actually similar to Germanic and similar to like Dutch and Norwegian. It's very hard to impossible for me to understand or read, because they used words back then that they don't use today. But yeah, the reason why there are horrible references in the Bible and contradictory things like, an eye for an eye, tooth for tooth in the Old Testament, but in the New Testament it has Christ saying, turn the other cheek. And then people say, well, we only follow the New Testament. But in the New Testament, Christ said that he came to enforce the laws of the Old Testament. So, apparently he was okay for, stone your children to death if they're disobedient, stone people to death for eating shellfish. He's okay with all of that. But, and based on a lot of archaeological theories and based on some circumstantial evidence, there's no criminal arrest record of a Jesus Christ. And the word Christ is the Greek word for Savior. And there's some evidence that there may have never been a Jesus Christ, that he's a fictional character. He's a composite character of like 5 different Roman cults, all smashed into one. Because the problem with the Roman Empire at the time of Constantine, you got to look at the context of the politics. He was fighting a civil war. His segment of the Roman Empire was predominantly Christian, and Christianity was growing in popularity at the time, and paganism was becoming the old religion that was being cast out. And so he threw in a little bit of paganism, a little bit of Christianity. There was many different people proclaiming themselves leader of their Christian sect. There was like 5 different people proclaiming to be Pope. And he wanted a single state authority because he viewed this as a threat to his political base. And so this is the reason why the Bible is a hodgepodge of many different religions. Anyway, enough said on that. I've only got 2 minutes left in this show. I want to summarize that we have to be careful for the future. As time goes on, we tend to become regressive sometimes. We become progressive, and then we regress, and that's what's happening now. We like people in the United States like to claim they won the Cold War, but in some ways I say the Cold War never really ended. If you look at the demographic of wars around the world, You got the United States versus Russia and Ukraine, the United States versus Russia and Syria. The Assad regime in Syria is backed up by Russia, and apparently Russia now is confirmed for landing troops on the ground. They have naval infantry on the ground in Syria, and they're going to be fighting ISIS directly. And strangely, the United States is against this. And then you have, Russian-backed rebels with Russian weapons fighting the Ukrainian government, and the Ukrainian government is getting weapons and training from the United States. And so you have a two-front war worldwide between Russia and the United States, where they're indirectly fighting each other. And then there was, like last year, I think it was a little over a year ago, or it might have been, it was a while back, it might have been 1 to 2 years ago, there was, actually I think it was last year, there was a U.S. spy plane that flew too close to Russia and almost got shot down by Russian fighter jets. This reminds me of the Cold War all over again. How little have we learned? Sadly, Putin I'm not a fan of him either. He's a dictator. He has corrupted the democratic process of Russia, and he is former KGB chief, and he's acting just like it. Oh, welcome back, Daniel. I got to wrap up the show. It's now the show just about over. Do you have any final words before I go?
Well, I hope this doesn't go out of proportion. I would think it's very irresponsible if Vladimir Putin and Obama have an argument. They shouldn't throw bombs at each other. Like they shouldn't. This could maybe happen. I hope it doesn't, but. I don't think that they should throw nuclear bombs at each other. They should be more responsible than that. That's very irresponsible. If you have a disagreement, you talk about it. You shouldn't. The innocent people, the innocent bystanders, shouldn't pay the price for that.
I don't think there's going to be direct nuclear war between Russia and the United States, but there's a recent news report, and it actually shocked me. Apparently, Russia is going all in on Syria. Russia is sending naval infantry, which is the Russian equivalent of Marines. They're sending naval infantry to Syria. Russia already has a naval base in the Mediterranean on the Syrian coast with permission of the Assad government. And they're sending in troops, tanks, artillery, and reinforcement. And apparently, the Russian army is going to fight ISIS directly. And the United States State Department with John Kerry has publicly stated that they don't like this. I'm like, what? You don't like Russia fighting ISIS? So Syria is getting pretty messy. The thing I worry about is if the conflict expands beyond just Ukraine and Syria, and it's also bled over into Iraq. If it gets beyond Ukraine, Syria, and Iraq, then you could get other people involved like India or China, then it could become a world war. And then if the country is losing out of desperation, then out of desperation they might use nukes. But then that would be years down the pipe. Right now, I don't think we have to worry about nuclear war, but we do have to worry about tensions between the United States and Russia. It could eventually lead to nuclear war. But who knows? Maybe the future will be like Mad Max, and we'll have cool monster cars to kill everybody with.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is they shouldn't be that irresponsible. That's very irresponsible. I don't care what time it is. I don't care what that's very irresponsible if they do that. They should be more responsible.
Well, Obama doesn't trust Putin because Putin, with the Russian Constitution, he wasn't supposed to run for a third term, and then there was ballot box stuffing. And a lot of evidence of that he usurped the election, and there's a lot of so he basically is not democratically elected anymore. He's a dictator. He's assumed total control. Putin doesn't trust the United States because he used to be head of the KGB, and Obama doesn't trust Putin because Putin has gone into Ukraine. He took over Sebastopol, took over Crimea, because that's a warm water port on the Black Sea. And, so there's tension, and the United States is allied with Ukraine, and Ukraine is a democratic country. But Russia just went in there with their troops and said, nope, Sevastopol is ours. Crimea is ours. Historically, Crimea had been a Russian territory, but when Ukraine declared independence, Russia recognized that Crimea and Sevastopol was a part of Ukraine. But Russia has since taken it back, and they have troops stationed there, and they have their whole naval fleet stationed there. So yeah, things have gotten pretty messy. Hopefully, they won't get any messier.
Yeah.
I'm not a religious person. I don't believe in Armageddon. I just think that maybe in the future the world will be like Mad Max, and we'll have cool monster cars that are, and to kill each other with.
Yeah.
We'll be out in the desert.
Chris.
Yeah.
Sorry. How much have I missed? Did I miss the Star Trek talk?
You did, but if you want, because I started this cast about a few minutes late. Summarize what you wanted to talk about the future of Star Trek. I basically said I wasn't optimistic. Until J.J. Abrams leaves Star Trek, I won't be optimistic about the future of Star Trek at all.
Well, I don't know. I kind of like what Abrams. I like many people kind of like what Abrams did with the franchise. I mean, that's why it made 387 million worldwide. The first movie, the second movie, it had its subtractors, and I agree it did have its subtractors, but I keep on saying, if they changed a few things about the second movie, if they made Cumberbatch somebody else, okay, this is what I would have done if I was in charge. I would have made Cumberbatch somebody else. He would have been a superhuman from the future of the Prime universe, and somehow, like Nero, got to our universe. So, and then he would start causing trouble on Earth, That's what I would have done. So we would have had another connection to the Prom universe with this new superhuman, and it wouldn't be Khan. And I estimate by doing that, it would have made 500 million plus worldwide. It would have succeeded.
Maybe. Well, who knows for sure? Who knows for sure? But anyway, I am. This is Steampunk Starraisin now. You have a nice day, and I will see you 25 billion years. I will. And thanks, Daniel, for joining me.